Hi, I'm Darren Gough and welcome to my new cricket show. For those of you who don't know me, I used to play a little bit of cricket for Yorkshire, Essex in England. I was a talkSPORT presenter, MD of cricket at Yorkshire, but most people probably know me for being that dancer on Strictly Come Dancing. I played in 4 Ashes series, 2 at home and 2 away, and I never was on the winning side in an Ashes series. I never had that pleasure of lifting that little urn. So what we're going to do 10 shows on how to win an Ashes series. Whether it be captaincy, whether it be handling pressure, whether it's dealing with that outside noise from the media, Australian media, English media, or the fans' expectancy home and away. So, what do England need to do to lift that little urn in January at the SCG? This is how to win the Ashes. Welcome to this week's How to Win the Ashes. I'm Darren Gough, and with England 2-0 down going into 3 tests, this week we are talking about batting. We've seen some poor cricket so far in the series, but let's talk about batting really in Adelaide, in Melbourne and Sydney. I've played all 3, you've played all 3, and you have been there numerous occasions commentating, writing on those and seeing the best players play on those pitches. So we'll start with you, Jarrod. Talk about batting in these next 3 test matches. Adelaide is probably going to be, what, the flattest of the 3?
Yeah, generally. Sydney's got flat over the last couple of years, but Sydney's one of those wickets where sometimes it can be hard to make runs or get wickets. You know, it can get a bit weird with that. But yeah, Adelaide's always been flat. It has changed over the last few years. You know, Aussie rules football dominates Australian sport now, right? And so drop-in pitches and how you do irrigation, a lot of it is aimed at football rather than cricket. So it's no longer, Sydney and Adelaide don't spin the way that they used to. And Adelaide is probably a little bit more bounce, but I would say at times it's tennis ball-y bounce. So instead of being like the Gabba and in the Wacker where it's sort of normal cricket bounce, it's a little bit more the ball comes in and then bounces up at you a little bit more.
Doesn't it get Adelaide get lower as well? I mean, from my experience, it used to get lower in the second innings.
It used to get lower, but that from when we played, that was a permanent fixture. It's not a permanent fixture now. It gets and it's out.
They also don't play as much cricket on it anymore.
They don't play as
in
much.
those days, because Aussie rules football really hadn't sort of
Are they dropping
over.
Still then?
Yeah.
They're dropping.
As far as I'm aware.
Adelaide's a drop-in, but it didn't used to be. So when we played, it was
flat.
flat and it stayed there. And
that's why they put the big. That's why all the money went into it. Is for Aussie rules. And
it's a completely different stadium now.
Yeah, they had to change it, but it still does play like Adelaide. It is a flatter pitch. There is runs, and also it usually by the end falls apart a little bit, right? Like everyone always goes, "Oh, Adelaide's so flat there'll be a draw." You don't have a lot of draws.
Because Ogard had success there, didn't he? Bowling there, cutters.
He's bowling cutters.
Yeah, cutters and all sorts.
In the game when we lost, where we got 550.
So batting compared to, let's talk about batting. We've seen some of the shots in the earlier test matches, right? In Perth and Brisbane, you've looked like a shell-shocked England side trying to bat on there. All that homework, which we talked about batting, and we had people talk about batting in Australia, suddenly it's not gone to plan, right? They've totally ignored anything anybody said. So now we're in Adelaide. How do we reassess where we go with the batting? Do they carry on doing the same thing, or do they have to just step back and say, right, this is how it's going to play, this is where you've got to hit the ball?
I mean, I think they have to rethink driving on the up in Australia as a general rule. And generally, on drop-in pitches, that's not a good idea anyway. The one thing I think is in their advantage is small square boundaries.
I'm going to say, yeah.
Right? So they can start playing the hooks and slashing on the offside a little bit more. You guys
it's not going to help their bowlers, though.
Yeah, what we're going to do with the bowlers?
It's a batting
conversation, yeah.
But if you think about Adelaide, it's one of those things of you can put someone out at square leg and at deep point. It doesn't matter. The ball goes so quickly because the outfield is immaculate, and it's so. I don't think people understand how small that ground is.
Difficult, yeah.
Yeah, so I think when you're looking at batting in Australia, you really do want your best square of the wicket players in. Trying to get them set in Adelaide is a good thing, and I think that's a really important thing. The other thing is that when you drive, you have to be prepared that you're going to leg them. right? Like you play a really good drive in Adelaide and you have to think to yourself, I have to run. Because we've seen fours run quite regularly to those straight boundaries. Even, they brought the ropes in. It's still a mile, isn't it? You know, you must have seen that as a bowler. You get hit back past you and you expect the boundary and you look up and you're like, oh, that's
run 5. You could run 5 straight. So when it comes down to that, you're batting and you're bowling against some of the batting we've seen, especially against our bowlers. And we talk about you need your best back foot players to get set and get in. But if you were bowling at, say, Crawley and Duckett, you're not going to bowl it short, though, are you? So for these guys, and I think that's one thing that Jarrod's just picked up on, Australia are just going to have that plan of attack where they're just pitching it up with a little bit of width to both Duckett and Crawley.
But that's simple test match bowling, though. You know, what you do is you're basically putting it in an area consistently and saying to the batter, do you want to come at me? Do you mean you're going to get into a contest here? And the contest is, can you move him around the crease and get him in a position where you're going to win? You know that even from a bowling point of view. If it's swinging and you've got that one, or if you've got the one that wobble ball that nips back, you're trying to get him, you're bowling 4th, 5th stump, you're trying to move him across. And then hopefully that one nips back. So as a bowler, you're trying to move them around. I think you've got less margin for error as a bowler at Adelaide because I think the pitch is better.
How did you bowl to Ponting at Adelaide? Because,
Fuller.
Yeah.
Fuller.
So you consciously coming in.
Yeah.
So Ponting's obviously such a great pull. Yeah. Also, Ponting can pull from mid-on to square leg. But in Adelaide, he's going to go square.
Mid-on and mid-off. Mid-on and mid-off, don't get beyond the inside. Don't get beyond the inside of stump. If he wants to hit you through mid-wicket, he wants to hit you through extra cover, I'm happy for Ricky to do that. If I drag it down, I know I'm going into the stand.
Yeah.
I know I'm going into the stand. It's as simple as that. So I bowl him half volleys on not quite half volleys on off stump, and then around off stump. Yeah. When he first comes in, because like Ollie Pope, sometimes the bat comes down from second slip, or he misses, and it's a nick, or he misses and use LB. So that's when he gets in. That's before he gets in. When he gets in, then you've got to
hamstring.
Go. Yeah, right. But then you've got to go that little bit. Then you've got to go that just a touch wider. But you don't want to be going too far.
Then he'll start hitting you through.
Because he had that lovely way of hitting you, just leaning on it through.
What about you and Mark Moore?
But it was different. It was different for me than for him because my bounce. So his length would possibly be a little bit shorter.
He's more suited to bowling at that ground than you
are. That ground than I am.
Oh, I liked Adelaide.
I found it harder.
I liked Australia full stop anyway.
I found it harder to get it up. So, but fundamentally, yeah.
I know you're getting in your 40s now. Yeah. When you get to 55.
but fundamentally, you had to go that little bit fuller, and you had to hold your nerve and say, right, this is my best ball, and if he hits me off my best ball, this is probably the one pitch where you can put up with him hitting you off your best ball. Yeah,
but guys, what we're seeing though is all this like stuff which we all agree with, orthodox batting. Where do you hit the ball? Mm-hmm. You try and win first in, hit back that through the V. We've heard Australian legends come on here and tell us, go down there and hit down the ground. But what we've seen is unorthodox batting in 2 test matches. Cameron Green backing away. I mean, I would have loved that. Running in, he's back that far away, just ball it at the stump.
He almost fell over, did you see?
So we seen.
It's like Sean Tate did it in 2005 at Trent Bridge. It might have been to me or it might have been to Simon, but Sean Tate's he's like me, a world class number 11, not number 5.
No. So we're seeing unorthodox batting at the moment in time. So now orthodox. I'm expecting to see a bit more orthodox batting in Adelaide, Melbourne and Sydney. I am, because they're not as bouncy and they're not as quick. I'm hoping so, because Melbourne, from my memories of Melbourne, again, it might change, tell me if it has. Melbourne, depends on the weather, could be a bit overcast, there might be a little bit of swing there, it does go through the new ball, it becomes important. So batting's important to get through that new ball. Again, you've got to try and leave it early on. Sydney's the same, it gets flat. And it used to obviously turn as the game goes on, and that might change now. But it can be flat. But again, a lot of rain in Sydney can be overcast. So batting can be a battle. It can swing around.
But you're saying you're expecting some more orthodox batting.
I am. I really am.
Yeah, probably hoping more than else. I'm sitting here thinking, if Scott Boland bowls 6 balls at 5th stump at a 4.5, 5 metre length, Zach Crawley will still try and hit him through straight mid-on and mid-off. They will. This is the way they play.
Well, I actually think in Adelaide
think they will.
specifically,
I think they will.
if you
I
think the way they
think
play,
they might get away with it a little bit more.
Yeah, aren't
but
they
they'll
gonna
still
go-
end up nicking one of them.
yeah, but aren't they going to go for the short boundaries as well? You know this. Harmy probably hasn't been around with modern cricketers as much, but you know this from all your time in modern cricket. You go out in the middle of the ground with a modern batter now before the game.
Oh, it's ridiculous.
And what do they say? The first thing they say, that's a short boundary.
Yeah.
And they go, oh, the wind's going this way. It's incredible.
Well, they know the boundaries. They'll say 65 metres, 75. You know them off by heart, even when
they're
you
all
commentate.
looking for the wind. They're all looking for the wind tunnel in there. And I'm like, guys, you don't need to worry about all this. Like, play to the field, play to the pitch, and they don't think that way. So I think now in Adelaide, you're going to see a lot of people take risks because they're going to be like, okay, I could sweep. I'll sweep everything. Maybe I could sweep, medium fast bowlers. You wouldn't have had that. So he explained Ponting. What about Mark Waugh? You've got someone who basically can hit square of the wicket on both sides, right, off the front foot, and you're a natural front foot bowler on a wicket like that. Are you pulling the length back a little bit to Mark Waugh?
Again, I think bowling at him, I would always use my short ball. Because I know he's not going to pull me. If anything, he's going to try and go that side. So he has to be straight at him. So for him, his simple batting technique was to look for a drive and look for a cut. There were his big shots, and that flicked through mid-wicket, right? So I knew that. But to go in my favour, I wanted the ball early on to him to go away, obviously. But when it stopped swinging, which it did very quickly on flat pitches when we played,
Especially
and
in
they tended
Adelaide,
to last 4.5, 5 days, 100%. Every time went into the 5th day, it's on that nip back, rolling back in with a little bit of reverse onto the off stump, and he might miss one. But you have to have a split field for that.
You've got to have the guys out square, don't you?
Yeah, you've got to have a split field. You've got to have a man back there so it's in his mind, and a short mid-wicket so you can bowl wicket to wicket. I can't do that with an open leg side.
You've also got to have a plan, being able to execute the plan. Possibly having a plan B, but if you go into you mentioned there, Mark Waugh, you go right, all their batters. We used to have it on the toilet door, 1 to 11.
Yeah.
You even had
get videos.
You didn't even
given
have,
from
you
laptops.
even have a plan to Gillespie, Lee McGrath, the whole lot. But you're sitting on the toilet and there's the plan. You're sitting there staring at it, and it was how you're going to get them out. And that for me doesn't change. So when you talk about batters and bowling at them. You work to where's their weakness and you're going to get them out. So it is how you think Mark Waugh going to nick off, you're going to potentially get him LBW. Ricky Ponting, he's going to nick off, falling away, trying to get him LBW. These are the plans you're trying to get. So you then, how do I get that said batter into that position to get him to that point?
How do you go between
I don't think England, when England's batting at this moment in time, it's taken too long to get them into. It's taken bowlers too long to get them in a position to say, right, if we just hold our nerve and stick to this plan here, they'll come to us.
Do you know
the
why?
modern batter comes to us. As a bowler now, I mean, I'd love to bowl now. If I was back to 25 and,
You go for more and over, but you get a lot more wickets.
40 kilograms later than what I am now, 45 in your case. But you would love to bowl now.
So unnecessary.
But you would love to bowl now, for the simple fact is, we were bowlers that, right, anybody that comes at us, we were sort of big buff chested, we'd come at them and go, right, you come at us, we're in the game here. This is game, their game's on. A little bit like Joffrey at the end with Steve Smith. I don't mind going at 5 and 6 and over because me and you are going to have a contest. And I think if you're coming at me, I've got a better chance of getting you out. So it was always, right, how do I think I'm going to get him out? And then I work to a 10, 12, 15, 20 ball plan and moving a batter to that point. I don't think I'm going to get him LBW. Everything's going to go past, for the early point of it, I'm going past his left ear. Right-hander, if I think I can get him across with a short ball, it's his left ear and he's ducking on the inside. Everything's ducking on the inside because he's getting the further over. Or if I can't get that way, I'm going wider and try to drag him across that way. These are things that a bowler would do to get players into a position. Now, they're just standing there. Modern day has changed. Game, bang, baseball style.
Well, I think when we talk about modern day batting then, one thing I would always have in my head, a batter's strength can also be his weakness.
Yeah.
And I think what we're seeing now in modern day batting is a lot of batters' strengths actually, in this series so far, are their weakness.
Yeah.
Duck it. Wanting to score off every ball. Don't like
being able to
leaving it,
leave.
right? Crawley can't leave it. His strength is driving the ball. He's very good. He looks brilliant when he drives the ball, and clearly, but he has got obviously a record and nicking off a wide delivery. So these are Ollie Pope. You know, these guys, they're all getting out really to their strengths.
Yeah.
That's what's in a mentality way. I'm thinking, how are their strengths going to get them runs from the rest of the series when it's failed already in 2 test matches?
And I also think, you know, to come on, you'll know more about it more with this from a stats point of view. But in the last probably, 2025, so you're looking at maybe the last 15, 13 years, bowlers are not having to work as hard to move batters into a position, because I think there's a lot more batters getting bowled now, top order batters getting bowled now than there was 20 years ago. Techniques change.
Trying to score, yeah.
Because the white ball game. You look at Jimmy Anderson. Jimmy Anderson was still taking wickets at 43 years old.
He got better the older he got.
Exactly. So did Broad. And all they did was the ball that far outside off stump, that far inside off stump, that far over up stump, and so basically
their first
we're
300
coming back
wickets,
onto you.
Right,
Yeah.
their first 300 wickets, both of them, they averaged over 30, right? With the modern day batter, they both went from over 30, 300 test wickets, which is a lot, and it's still brilliant bowling. Their averages both went.
I don't think that's just attacking. I think that is because those two.
The batter's technically
If
changed.
you look at when that changes, and he's going to hate me mentioning it. He knows what I'm going to mention beforehand. But when they start bowling the wobble ball, is when their averages go down. And the genius of the wobble ball is not just that it's hard to pick. It's that people started bowling it fuller and at the stumps. Right, and so now you have to play more balls off the stump. Go back and have a look at Richard Hadley bowling, or some of these other guys bowling. There's a lot of balls out there. Glenn McGrath didn't bowl at the stumps all that much, right? And in that era, you were leaving the ball outside the off stump. Now the balls are at the stumps, and so you're attacking from the stumps as much as anything else. And so I think it has completely changed the way you think. And to get back to your point before of strengths, batters now, because in white ball cricket, they try and get to their strengths any way they can. So look at Ollie Pope. He's taken a step and a half down the wicket so he can get to the point. So if he can get outside off stump, he can flick anything he wants to mid-wicket, and you can't keep him down.
But I think
the issues with that is that his head's moving and he's not in that position.
It's
And I think, but if you want to sort of evaluate the batting, and the art of batting, and the structure of batting, I think you look at it, and I think you wrote a book on it, didn't you?
Here's my book.
Where is it? Somewhere. But there is pre-helmets, and then there's probably pre-IPL, would you say? 3 different phases of how batting, the art of batting, you can assess.
It's basically helmets, white ball cricket, DRS.
Yeah.
Those are the 3 big changes. So I think the changes probably started during your career, and you might not have noticed them because they were quite subtle. And then once DRS comes in, people are like, you would have got a bunch of LBWs that if we go back and have a look at them, it would have been like, why are you getting this? It's hit him on the thigh pad.
Yeah, but we got a few we didn't get as well.
No. But what I
We didn't
mean
get many because umpires, though, were more not out. Because that was the safe option.
You wouldn't
there
have
were
got-
no one to embarrass them.
You would have got no LBWs when the ball was hitting leg stump, if you go back in your career, right? Because in those days, if it was hitting leg stump, everyone went, it was going down.
Seven and Genie.
Yeah, and so and so it's changed, and so you would have changed as a bowler to match that, and that's what the modern cricketers are doing, and it's a completely new world that they're getting into, and then you get to a point of which, as you said before, you're trying to attack because Faf du Plessis is terrible when the ball is bowled on a length outside off stump, right? So Faf du Plessis would walk across the stumps, right? Previous generations he would have left it. Now he's like, well, if I can get out here and I can flick this on the leg side. So people are changing their risks from what they used to, right? And it's very, very different. As you said, maybe some of them should go back to the older method.
Well, do a Tendulkar, do a Joe Root. Did Joe Root play any different in the second test for that 100? The first one he's got on Australian soil? He probably did. He was a little bit more watchful when he first came to the crease. He got himself in, and then he does what Joe Root does. Once he's in, you ain't getting him out. Same as Ricky Ponting, same as Michael Vaughan, same as Strauss, same as Cook. They get in, they're hard to get out. Let's hear from a man who scored a bucket full of runs in Australia, ex-Australia captain, Michael Clarke. What about batting against fast bowling? Let's go in Australia because it is different to anywhere else.
Yeah.
Right? I think a lot of bowlers can fall into the trap of bowling a little bit too short. I bowled fuller and bat myself to get the edge of the bat. So what's it like to face fast bowling in Australia?
I think you got your length right, Gothy. I think you've got to hit the stumps. And that might mean, certainly as the game goes on, you might go for runs. But I think generally in Australia, you get consistent pace and bounce. So I think the way to get players out, and that doesn't mean don't use your short ball. I think in Australia, it's probably easier to use your short ball. But it's important not to get carried away with it. I think you use your bouncer to push a batsman back, but your wicket-taking deliveries are hitting the stumps. You're attacking that top of that off stump, which brings in every form of dismissal. And certainly when you go to places like Perth and Brisbane, the ball bounces so consistently and so much. A lot of the time, the length you bowl in England is half a foot shorter than what you need to bowl in Australia. So you've got to think, certainly with a new ball on a good flat wicket, you nearly got to feel like I've got to bowl a half volley. Now, it's not a half volley, but compared to where you bowl in England, it would feel like that for bowlers. So that takes a lot of courage as well. And I think that's part of why preparation when you travel is important to actually feel that difference before you go into the game. Hard to make that change when you're under pressure in a test match. But I think we've seen the wickets in Australia in the last couple of years probably have too much in them for the quicks. Sort of spin's been taken out of play. Seen a lot of test matches only go into day 3. So I'll be interested to see what happens this summer. I hope they go back to what they used to be, where, you see that sideways movement, whether it's swing or seam early. Wickets are great for batting on for 2.5 days. And then you see some natural variation, bit of spin, bit of up and down bounce. But yeah, look, batting against fast bowling in Australia, I thought was the perfect place to bat. I reckon that 130 to 140 Ks you can train, and it comes onto the bat nicely, and you've got even pace and bounce. Still, that when you can bowl that 140 plus, you can hit a batter hard. You can actually do him for speed. So that's one of England's strengths with Wood and Archer in this series. I think that extra speed could be a weapon for them. But I think there's always something there for the quicks in Australia. But if you get in as a batter, because the pace and bounce is so consistent, they're beautiful wickets to bat on.
Would that be a true story then about, I've heard a lot of batters talk about, a lot of English players try and play off the back foot, force it. Would that be true then when you're batting in Australia, you as a frontline batter, is to cross bat shots, cut and pull?
I think early in your innings, in Australia, you should think dead straight down the ground. But what I mean by that is it allows you then, if the ball's missing the stumps, to let the ball go or pick up. It takes a bit of time to pick up the speed of the ball off the surface in Australia. So even if it is your first 20 runs, if you think, if I can hit it straight, I'm doing that because that's protecting me also getting out. That's the ball. That's the length you would bowl. Anything outside of that, and we used to call it swim between the flags. At the start of your innings, swim between the flags. And then as you get used to the pace and bounce, cut and pull is heaven in Australia because you can pull the ball from mid-on to over fine leg. Once you get the pace, you can work out, am I inside the line of it? Am I staying leg side of it? The other thing it opens up, and you see a lot of players these days, they play that up and over third man, which, when I first started, you weren't playing that. You're either cutting it or trying to get inside the line and hook and pull it. But these days, players play the full 360 degrees, and I couldn't think of anywhere better to bat in Australia if you wanted to do that or if you could do that.